So we are going to do our panel session now. So with the speakers, and we've also got an additional member. I want to do the introduction. So again, please don't forget to have a go at filling this form for us. As I said, we are creating this Commit to Innovation group so we can help you guys to enable you to innovate. So please get involved. And if you do really want to get involved with the group, there's an opportunity to give your details to us so we can contact you and you can help. And again, there's the hashtag for the social media. Hashtag is Commit 2024. So we've had some questions. Thank you very much, everyone. If there's any more, we can either do them live in the room or you can use the QR code to connect. No problem.
Thanks for waiting.
So first question we've got at the top is, when bringing innovation to any business, historically, a budget is required. But you said that if time and budget is strictly followed, it will fail. Explain. That's from Paul Keenan.
That's myself. That was to the doctor. Just, I hope I've not misunderstood it. It's just normally when you've got a project, there's a budget and there's a time agreed with the business. But then a few slides later on, you say if price, if cost and budget and time is strict adhered to, it will fail.
I didn't say exactly that. I was referring more to how you can foster an innovation culture and how you can establish innovation capability, because for sure, as soon as you have the project ready, of course you have a budget, of course you have a timeline. But when you do need to foster innovation culture within an ecosystem like COMIT, for example, and you find out that there is a low innovation overall, if you want to enhance it, if you start by having KPIs, like for example, margin. So let's say there is an idea, right? And the very first thing you ask is, okay, what's the margin of your idea? You kill it at this very moment. So at the beginning, you need to have other sort of leading indicators. For example, how many of these ideas are novel and they satisfy a consumer need. You see what I mean? Just to enhance it. So as soon as it becomes a project, a tangible project, then of course you have a budget. Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a timeline. That's what I meant. Okay. Hope it helps. Thank you.
So this is from an anonymous person. Opinion on cave versus AR for environmental context. AR enables environmental context with BIM overlaid. Wouldn't purely a cave environment remove real context? I'm assuming that's for you.
I'm assuming that's for me. Yeah. Caveman. Yeah. So I think really my PhD is exploring the cave in one use case. So it's not discounting all the other kinds of XR there are, because AR, for a good reason, because it's so lightweight and so usable, is extremely popular. You see it things like designing where your furniture is going to go in your house, that sort of thing. And from an overlay perspective, that's really useful because you keep all of the context of where you are in your space and link that to digital world database. The cave does lose that in sense of you lose the sense of reality, but it is a greater sense of reality than, for example, head-mounted devices, where you are completely removed even from your own body. You can't even see yourself. So the cave's strength in this case is not to do with the environment around you. It's not a mobile application you can take with you, but it can take you to a location with a data overlay, and it can take you as a group and have that co-located experience, decision-making, and getting several expertise opinions between you to formulate a decision. So I think in terms of collaborative XR, it is one of the leading applications, but I think it's very underutilized and under-researched. So that's kind of the difference. I think it's how you want to use a product, what your actual requirement is, and Cave and AR are just very inherently different things.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Any other comments on that? Okay, I'll go to the next one.
Has there been any ROI done on the cave? Is there been any study on return on investment in the cave at all?
Yeah, so there's a case study with Seymour, kill me from full career, but I'm sure I remember the exact name. It was Thames Tideway project, and I think there was a 25-week ROI for using the cave. And this was not just for applications like I'm saying, where you completely try and transport a team to being on site, but it was things like design reviews, client engagement, coordinating members of like on ground, so people who are going to construct that day and saying this is what you'll be doing today, and showing them in a very immersive way. This is your daily task, and these are the other things that are happening on site. Therefore, be more careful, or you have subcontractors working with you. And they found that over 25 weeks, just replacing the man hours it took to tell those people the same thing, or to do the design reviews, the ROI was achieved. And that wasn't even considering the quality to which those tasks were then achieved. So thinking about the money saved in design reviews of clash detection or training and that sort of thing. So there are many use cases for it. There's one at Great Ormond Street, there's two at the University of Birmingham. And I particularly see a great use case as education. Because you don't need to have the expertise in BIM, digital twins, to then get to experience it in a cave. You know, I've sat and led sessions with like women engineering days with like year 9 students, and I sat there and they're just amazed at things you can show them. I can show them the International Space Station 360 video, and it's just that engagement and that level of understanding of what you're looking at, and the importance of, oh yeah, we have to design this right because we're sending to space, rather than trying to formulate that from a sheet of paper. So it has a lot of potential, and I think the ROI is there. It is more expensive than other forms of XR, but I think if you use it right, it can be really powerful.
Thank you. So I think this one is for everybody. Why do we need to innovate? I'm smiling there.
So,
Yeah, well, we don't have to innovate for the sake of innovating. We innovate only when we identify a customer aspiration, a customer need, a problem that our current offering cannot meet, cannot solve. This is when we innovate. And of course, we have to differentiate between incremental innovation, so small changes, and breakthrough innovation, bigger changes with higher risk, of course. So this is when we innovate.
Anybody else like to add to the conversation?
I mean, I like the fact. Well, one of my problems with innovation, so to speak, in construction specifically, is that sometimes it's not about what you described, isn't like actually responding to a problem. Sometimes it's AI is now the new buzzword, so
you have to use it.
So let's all figure out how to suddenly use AI. But I don't mean it in it's not actually targeted at solving specific problems. Having said that, the reason we need to innovate is there are problems. I think it's important to not think of it as it's just innovation, as much as we're just solving problems.
Yeah.
And certain problems need certain solutions, and sometimes new technologies help in creating better solutions, which will then help make improvements. And some will be smaller and some will be bigger, but ultimately it's responding to problems. I do think sometimes there's this culture of innovation for the sake of innovation, and or more less so, not just for the sake of innovation, but for the sake of positioning and marketing a company as innovative, which is really problematic in the industry.
Yeah.
So the example I was thinking of when I posted that question was New Coke. New Coke was basically, it wasn't solving a problem. Nobody wanted it, and when it got there, nobody wanted it.
Yeah, that was a failure. I mean, there's a lot of stories of failure. Yeah, but then again, there's not always a problem, but there might be a customer aspiration or a customer need or a customer implicit need. So when companies identify those needs, they say, well, can we meet those needs with our offerings? If not, then let's innovate. And sometimes that goes wrong for various reasons. Yes, absolutely.
But I think on this point, it's really important to distinguish maybe between reactionary innovation
Exactly.
and proactive. You know, just because a client is asking for a change to your software or what you're doing, that is not necessarily the same as the iPhone being released and everyone being like, oh yeah, actually, this is fantastic, using touchscreen and all the apps and that kind of thing. And that wasn't an ask, but it was
exactly.
a targeting that this actually is going to benefit everyone, such as AI. You know, no one sat down and said, where's ChatGPT? But having those things will benefit all of us intangibly. So actually thinking outside the box and having space to do that and the culture to do that is really important.
That's why our research showed that it's about future-focused, human-centered innovation, and also about failure, because I talked about failure. The culture of innovation is about learning from failure, because there's no way you will fail. I have failed so many times, but it's what you learn and how you can improve next time, how you're not going to make the same mistakes again.
Failing fast.
Failing fast, yeah.
So how much is too much innovation? Anyone like to answer that?
I don't think there's an answer to that, is there? I know the problem, sorry, I'm stealing your thunder.
Is that your...
Yeah, that was another, sorry, extension of the question. I think, how much change can an organisation handle?
I think it depends what they mean by change. I've listened to some, I mean, I wasn't here for the presentation, so I apologise for that. But we're both on the innovation committee here. And we've had lots of discussion about what does innovation mean. Is it, you've all been talking about benefits in terms of selling to client. That's almost every answer I've heard has been talking about referring to revenue to an organisation rather than cost saving. And innovation works both ways. You know, it doesn't, and as you said just now, it doesn't have to be huge amounts, it can be fairly small. So how can you say how much do you need? Well, every single step is worth having if you can do it. The other problem you have in organisations, and I've seen it, you all have, is a cultural shift that says we don't do this, and therefore people don't bring these ideations forward. And you were just talking about software, and you know, people are developing software systems to help ideation, to help organisations follow that through, rather than having sort of no way of expressing ideas. For the sake of saying the word too many times, you know, how do you let your organisation know that you've got an idea? And we've discussed this, haven't we? Organisations don't have an innovation process. They don't have a way for Mr. I'm down on the sort of shop floor, or I'm building a wall or putting up scaffolding to talk to anybody about that. They've got this great idea, but how do they express it? So that in terms of the question about how much is too much, there isn't too much. You just need to be able to manage it, my opinion. And I can.
So, the same question for Mo. Right? So you go to an organisation and you say, hey, your data is garbage. I need you to stop doing that, and I want you to start doing all of this.
Yeah, I would. So that diagram that I put up with the different boxes of things that we could be tackling over time: information, cost, carbon requirements. If you asked me this question 6 years ago when we started Morta, I would have said we'll do it all in one go. If you ask me now, when like this is a discussion we have a lot. The most difficult problem with us as a company is that you can do whatever you want, but sometimes trying to take on every single use case, it's not a good thing, because that's these way too many things to test, too many stakeholders to get on board, way too many things to learn, too many things to wrap your head around. So what we actually now actively push for is a use case by use case approach to deploying, or like a few use cases at most, to deploying the solution. So we'll often either start with a specific use case or with a specific team, because then that team can manage the change, they can learn, they can fail, they can and so on and so forth. They can figure out how it's going to work for their specific organization. And then that information becomes very key for what happens next and how it rolls out to the other teams. So I'd agree with Mario in that it's about how much can be managed ultimately and how much they can learn from what they're getting, so that they can then innovate in other processes.
And also, if I can add something onto that, it also begins with your purpose. So what is your purpose? What is your roadmap, the strategy that you have? And then you're building onto that because you don't do, as you said, I mean, someone comes and says, well, you have a problem, you need to fix that, you need to change the other. No, what's your strategy? What's your purpose? Because the innovation is not the destination, it's the means towards your destination, your purpose.
There's also the question that those problems aren't necessarily seen.
Yeah.
You know, it's identifying, and that's what I was talking about ideation. If you don't know there's a problem there, you don't know what the results might be of fixing it. It's finding those problems that they might be only known at a, I hate saying this, at a lower level in an organization. There's no mechanism for promoting that.
Like in our case, we often have that as a problem. The person who's updating the Excel-based tracker knows all of the challenges that the pain that goes into that Excel-based tracker and how many things could be going wrong. The person who's sitting at the very top of the organization, by hook or crook, they get a report when they ask for it. It's just, there's a lot of pain in getting that report together, and there's a lot of potential for mistakes. So sometimes it's about getting in to almost educate on how the world could look like different if they actually eliminated it. And then they're like, I now understand that spreadsheets are bad for me. I need to use it everywhere else.
So I think I actually heard once somebody say that an organisation can only handle less than 10% change at any one time. Otherwise, it's basically chaos. And that's why I asked. I thought maybe there was some research done on.
That comes back to the invest bit, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that means you're looking at something that's going to cost a lot of money to fix, which is the big problems. It's the small problems that are damn irritating that we've all got, and somebody can have an innovative idea to change that, and they need a mechanism. That's what we were saying, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, we have to sign
walking into the next
timesheets
question
twice. Why?
Walking into the next question, which was also one, sorry.
Hogging the floor.
How do you get people on board?
So, did you want to ask your question?
I said, how do you get people on board with innovation?
So I think it comes back to just going back to that, there's a problem. People know that they have a specific problem. Certain people know that they have a specific problem. They then start adopting the solution or testing it. One of the things we've actually started doing is we tell people not to build it completely when they're building the tracker. You almost sometimes leave certain things that you know people will actually ask for. And when they ask for it and then they add the extra column in front of them, they're like, this thing is flexible, and my feedback has been taken on board, and that makes them feel like they've contributed to the solution and they've been a part of it, not that it's been forced on them. And a big, at least in our approach, a big part, the whole exercise is in building trust, taking it problem by problem, which ultimately results in a use case. Problem is tracking planned actual design deliverables versus planned design deliverables. Give a solution for that. They start implementing the solution on certain jobs. Different people are providing input, and they're seeing that their input is being taken on board. They're then I actually contributed to this, or I was a part of this, and it didn't force. And then they get more passionate about it, and then that continues rolling. But I think the big thing is in not just doing something and imposing it on people, even if it's asking a question and then them seeing a result of that. I think that's a very big part in bringing them on board.
And I think we might have to distinguish between what do we mean by bringing people on board on an innovation, for example, innovation project, a complex project, versus building an innovation capability within the organization. So therefore you have, and that starts from the top, for sure. This is how you can get people on board. But I agree with your points, and definitely people want to feel part of the solution, to participate, to feel also part of the purpose. And sometimes what also helps, I mean, I don't know in your industry, but it helps to have targets that they are linked with the success of the innovation as well. Which mean numerical targets and bonuses.
We are the disruptors.
Money.
To prove its value, essentially, isn't it? Yeah, which we sometimes forget to do. And it's where we see things just filter away, and because there's no real information on it. Okay. So the next one is another anonymous. Is there anybody in the room?
There wasn't me.
Okay. Only someone else is asking the question.
That was me, I didn't mean to be anonymous.
No, that's fine. So how do we begin to bridge innovation culture and traditional construction culture? What do our construction engineers of the future need to be? Big question. Who's gonna put their hand up to go first?
Well, I think one of the talks earlier on AI really brought up the idea of digital natives. And I think this is a really important thing that we're sort of seeing with the gamification of construction as well. And we sat in Unity offices, 10 years ago I knew Unity because I like video games, but now we're here in the context of construction, right? And that's in itself like very different, very scary. And Unity have gone through a lot of innovation to get to where they are now, offering a 3D real-time simulation platform. But I think bridging the gap from where we are now to being fully innovative in construction and using the new technologies we're talking about comes with a sense of being open-minded, and the new generation coming through that have grown up with technologies like this and listening to their ideas is all very important. But I think there's also an onus on suppliers of the technology to actually empower those using it to think in that way. So, for example, with the caves, we can go to sites and we can go to CISC or HS2 projects or whatever it is, whoever the client is, and we can say, here's what you can do. You can look at a BIM model, you can look at a Matterport scan, you can be as if you're on site, and they go, that's fantastic. And you check on them in 3 months' time and they say, we haven't really used it. And in a way, that's kind of our problem, because we want to empower them to be able to do ideation and think about how to think in the way in which they can use the Formax to its full potential. I think that's true for most things. It's if you're not empowering them and letting them have their own idea of the capability and actually, we can do things in this way now. We can view the scan of the site every single day and see how things are progressing in Abu Dhabi or Hong Kong. If we don't do that, they're not going to progress to the next level.
Is that innovation or adoption?
Well, adoption of innovation, I suppose, because it's in top of
the UAT slide.
It's a topic of the day or a thing they haven't used before, and we do need to make sure that they are able to adopt it. It's in the same way that if you want to make an app on the App Store, you can get support for it. If you want to make a Unity product, you can go next door to the Unity Centre of Excellence and be taught how to use it, and that benefits both sides, in my opinion.
Yeah, sorry.
I just want to put out there that a lot of this is to do with the cultural change. If people feel that they have agency, and if they feel that their performance is noted and they get performance-based pay, then this will all change. It's because the construction industry has been based on a hierarchical structure rather than, I don't know what the word is for this new structure, but it needs to be different.
Yeah.
Does it have to be pay-based recognition or?
Performance-based pay.
Yeah.
And people should have agency. They should feel that what they say will make a difference. And if they notice something can be better, that if they can improve it, their pay will improve.
I mean, at the low level, we use a thing called bonusly, where we can recognise the contribution or what other people have done in terms of innovative or whatever actions, and they get, I don't know, vouchers to use at John Lewis's or something like that.
Yeah, well, and how effective is that?
Very.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. I was a bit sort of skeptical about it when we introduced it about 2 years ago, but it is used a lot, and I couldn't believe I suddenly was getting Amazon vouchers myself that I was using. I think, where did that come from? So that's not just top-down recognition, that's also peer recognition. And if you do something that is different, I'm not talking about just helping somebody, I'm saying if you do something a different way, which is innovation at its low level, and that's being recognised for that, and of course it can escalate if people have got similar ways of doing it. That's my view now.
So in the US, the construction industry is based on the military model.
Yeah.
Where
there is
the soldiers are not asked about
Thatcher's way of doing things.
what should happen.
Yeah, top-down management. And
But I find here in the UK, it's much different, you know, and I actually heard an American say when we were here working on a project, says, you know, the big problem with the UK, everybody's got an opinion. Which is a good thing.
Can I just add on to
we've all
that?
got one and we can do the comparison. Yeah.
So I think it's just building on what you just said. You asked about the construction engineers of the future. And as you said, you talked about the army model, you talked about constraints and, you know, construction is something very tangible. So I think I would see it a bit philosophical. I would envision the engineers of the future to be dreamers. Because dreaming means, you know, you are constraint free. You are empowered to visualize a better future. And the technologies that we're talking about can enable you to fulfill those dreams. I think this is what it should be. Yeah.
But every once in a while, you got to follow orders too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We dream and we live and we act, you know, in reality.
For me, I always find like this question interesting, because on the one side, I can see why people would go, how do we make construction more innovative? On the other side, I actually think construction professionals can be very innovative. If you think about it on a job by job level, like, there's a lot of problem solving happening, and there's a lot of actual innovation happening in just figuring out how to get it done. And I think that's super impressive, and that gets lost. I think where construction is actually, and I think the problem is it often comes from an angle of people who are more tech-centric, and they want to see that tech being adopted. But I think a lot of the tech that people are trying to deploy are actually not fit for purpose, and they're coming often from people who don't actually genuinely understand how these construction organizations work. Having said that, what I think construction has a real problem is scaling innovation that worked. So once someone has, and that's where things like COMIT, in my opinion, come in. Like once someone has actually tried something out and seen that it's worked, shouldn't every single one need to go through the same types of trials? We should start working towards scaling it. So I think the jobs that need the particular innovations find their way to the actual innovation. But we have a much bigger problem when it comes to standardizing the use of that innovation and just making it like there, and people stopping reinventing the wheel. That's I think it's worse than that actually, than just innovating on a local level. So there is something about incentives and projects being a bit broken, and accountability there. I think it's a big thing.
Can I also throw in the fact that we've got this new era of people that are very much on that digital realm. However, construction aren't very good at getting those people to come and join us, basically. We're not getting the pick of the bunch. I think we need to do better at encouraging people to join our fabulous industry, because there's so much, you know, they could contribute to. Anyway, we've only got 3 minutes probably now left, so we'll quickly get through these 2 questions. So it's another anonymous one. With new technologies, we should also innovate in the ways of working with a digital mindset. How to transform a business to become more agile? Who would like to go first?
Sure, me.
So how do we?
They sometimes say new teams are more agile because they can do anything. But old teams are hard to change.
Who asked the question?
Yeah, it's me. So the question goes more on, you have new technologies and we're talking about innovation, right? And sometimes it all goes to return of investment. How much money or effort or people are we putting in testing a new technology? If it fails or whatever happens, if it's successful, it's right, but how do you keep it constant where we can?
How many people here today were at the COMIT meetings in 2002? Apart from me. Well, if you were,
I'll remember that for a
you see the level of innovation. What we're seeing today compared with what we saw in 2002 or 3, whichever year, I don't know, I was there then, I can't remember when it was. It's a long time ago. This is a completely different world. And most of the reason for those changes is innovative change in the construction industry. Some of the things we talked about in 2000 and whenever it was, were sort of pipe dreams. And now we think pretty normal, we do them every day. You know, there was no significant, in my world, planning tools, there was no GIS, there was no AI, there was no AI. You know, none of these things existed. Somebody had to be innovative to make them come along. And then we had to adopt them, and we did. So, I mean, I haven't physically been in the construction world longer than that, but, you know, I remember what it was like when I was working, putting up stanchions and things like that. We didn't work that way anymore. It's very changed. Lots of change in the way that people do things. And that is sorry if I'm not answering your question properly, but that is a result of innovation in this. COMIT was originally called Construction Mobile IT. It was all about trying to get mobile IT into the, we do that all the time now. We don't even think about it, but then we had no idea how to do it. There was no internet like we've got now. But, you know, it just didn't work. So adopting those new technologies is an innovative approach, in my opinion. And that's what COMIT has done, or rather the industry has done for itself. Sorry if that's the wrong answer, but it's the one I would have given to your question.
I can add on to that. It's also about being agile, means going for the small changes, small iterations, experimentation, learning from failure, which means you do have the leadership, the governance for that, the culture for that, for doing so.
Yeah, that's it. Specifically, like nowadays, it's more related to data. So there's a whole industry based on software development that I think they have good progress on making these iterations. But so far, apart from software, I find it a little bit harder to adopt some of the things that the developers were or are doing properly, or since a lot of iterations have
People are
been done.
adopting EV vehicles on site now, for an example.
Yeah.
There's other things that are happening.
Are you talking about like the process of like managing the jobs, or like are we talking, especially because you said software developers?
I'm talking about more like making sure they adopt new ways of working, just not only technology by itself, but these iterations, like be open to be like, we fail, but we're gonna improve a little bit for the next month or quarter. But not many businesses are like open to be this kind of setup. They are more like, the timeline is this, time frame you have to deliver the project is this. It's a waterfall approach rather than an agile where you have iterations.
I think that's where, like, just I'm mentioning it, but like, that's where, because we were talking about advanced work packaging earlier, I think that's where things like that can play a massive role, because you're decomposing the project into multiple projects that there is then accountability for on that like work package level, and there is then room to improve from one work package to another. Like that, I think that's the closest thing that I can do, because the idea then becomes, if you look at lean culture, work packaging, like bring all of these things together, it very much should be, we do work, we sit down, something has gone wrong, we spend, at the end of the day, we figure out what is the root cause of that problem, we then go back, we use that, we feed that back into what we're doing next, and so on. So I think like lean and advanced work packaging and like these types of principles are meant to be at the heart of this, but
But people have to be empowered to experiment, to be allowed to experiment with new ways of working. So.
Yeah, that is an agile approach anyway, isn't it? You've got from design package through to advanced package through to location package through to implementation. So you've got sort of the stages, and I wasn't at Jeff's presentation this morning, I was in another. I know what we would be talking about there.
It's going back to that top-down kind of principle, isn't it? We've got to encourage our businesses to allow people to try things out and sometimes fail, but learn from those failures, and you know, iterative improvement. So, yeah, we have actually run out of time. We are eating into your break time, but if you want to stay for the last question that I've got up here, that's fantastic. So, how, is it C, I'm assuming?
Star Awards.
Right, is it Star Awards now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Apologies, it's Star Awards. So we have to do, is that your used to?
Okay.
But thank you, that was really great conversation. Thank you.